Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. This is your host, Jeremy Donovan, joined always by my co-host, the young boy, Josh Smith. We got a jam-packed show tonight. We have mailbag questions. We're going to be talking about the 2 Road to Tokyo Dome shows, Lionsgate Project 10, and all the big news going into Wrestle Kingdom 12. And we're going to start off with the mailbag questions. Josh, we have a few questions in the mailbag this week.
Nice, man. I'm glad that we actually had some listeners give us questions this week. And I'm excited to see what people are asking us, get our opinions, I guess. Yeah, so first question comes from Ricky and Clive. You can find the Ricky and Clive wrestling show here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. They say, in your opinion, what makes New Japan so different to WWE? More creative freedom to give to wrestlers, less third parties to satisfy, shareholders, TV companies, or something else? Whew. What a question. We could do a whole podcast about just this question. What's the difference between the WWE and New Japan? Man, so, I mean, I don't have like a canned answer to that. Do you I have like a lot of little things that I can point out.
Right. I mean, I would say the probably the biggest thing is New Japan treats it like it's a sport, like it's a legit sport. Mm-hmm. And the whole country of Japan treats it like it's a legit sport. I mean, it's covered in the newspaper. It's covered in all the big sports journals. These guys are athletes. They're respected as so. The product is treated like a sport. Wins and losses matter.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's interesting that you say that it's sports style because, when you watch it, there's still the sports entertainment aspect to New Japan Pro Wrestling, but that comes along with the territory of worked wrestling. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they still treat it with a sense of gravity or like a sense of realism. That even though I'm sure everyone over there knows that it's a work, because it's presented and treated as though it's something that's a little more serious and prestigious. The way that maybe I don't know if WWF's ever been like a sport, but it definitely, there's a big difference 15, 20 years ago to how it was treated and, as to how it is now. Or, it's a good analogy. Not that it's exactly the same, but like Jim Crockett and the NWA. They had all sorts of crazy gimmicks and things like that, but it was still sport-centered wrestling product versus, the outlandish cartoon characters of WWE, that sort of thing.
Exactly, and there's a big difference in the in-ring style.
Huge.
We call our show Keeping It Strong Style. Strong style, that's what they wrestle in New Japan and pretty much all Japan promotions. That hard-hitting, a lot of grappling. WWE doesn't do the same. It's not the same at all.
Yeah, you really have to to kind of draw the comparisons between the two, or the differences is kind of crazy, but New Japan at this point in their history, they're so heavily influenced by two main things. One would be Antonio Inoki, the founder, his theory of what strong style wrestling was supposed to be. And his entire idea was to present it as though it was a sport. In fact, it was a precursor to what became MMA. And it was wrestling that was supposed to be presented as a real art form that centered on grappling, as real shoot grappling and heavy strikes mixed, coming from karate. Whereas the North American style of wrestling is it's not this. It's not like that. You know what I mean? And then the other big like influencer on New Japan modern times, at least in the heavyweight division, is the changes that came over from All Japan during the 90s with the King's Road style, and what we had the King's Road style, like with the guys like Mizawa, Kenta Kobashi, Kiritawa, Kawada, Jun Akiyama, all those guys who were doing some of the best wrestling in the history of the sport, and that heavily influenced the type of wrestlers that you see nowadays. And it's almost like what we call strong style isn't what like Inoki was doing in the 70s and 80s, but altogether that idea of strong style, this hard-hitting, realistic type wrestling, that's the biggest difference, is that it is intense, in your face. They don't pull punches the way that they do in WWE.
I mean, guys do really get hit in New Japan. Like, if you have a trained eye, you can watch a WWE match and kind of tell where some strikes are kind of pulled, or maybe they're not hitting as hard as they possibly could. I mean, you watch a New Japan match, especially if you watch guys like, Suzuki or Ishii. I mean, they're going at it. I mean, they're hitting you hard in a safe spot, but they're taking it to you.
There's other big differences. For instance, WWE is a content-based, episodic TV producing wrestling company, whereas New Japan doesn't have a weekly television program that they're producing. They do tours.
Right. New Japan kind of follows the old method of where the house shows are kind of the big deal. It's all about the tours. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily about the TV. The tours and the house shows build to the big shows.
Right.
And that's how it kind of used to be back in the day before, you had your Monday Night Raws and your Nitros and Impacts and all that stuff. People would have to go to these house shows to see what was going on and keep it with that to build up to these bigger shows.
New Japan, the focus is on the wrestling. You're not going to turn on any show at any point in the year with New Japan and get a 15-minute talking segment at the start of a show. It doesn't happen. You do get promos, but they are usually either... It's very rare when you do get a promo. When it happens, it's very important. Like even we're going to talk about here recently, Tanahashi came out for a promo and he was making an announcement. Guys really only come out to like make announcements of future matches, to set up angles, or after a match to like celebrate a victory. Most of the promo work that they do end up doing is presented at press conference type scenarios after the matches or before a match. Very rarely are you going to see two guys give verbal jabs in front of each other for like 30 minutes or 10, 15 minutes to start a show. It doesn't happen. That's a huge difference.
Right. Another thing, there's no like on-screen authority figure. There's no general manager, commissioner, whatever you want to call it, that's going to come out and, become the star of the show. New Japan has the IWGP, which is the governing body that makes the title matches.
Quote unquote.
The quote unquote governing body that makes all the decisions. I mean, that would be the equivalent to their kind of general manager authority kind of thing.
It's kind of like when Jack Tunney was in charge.
Right.
The golden age.
And so you don't have any of that. And so, I mean, we can go on and on and on about all different differences.
I mean, I'm having fun. I didn't think I would enjoy this question as much, but there's a lot of cool stuff. Well, another thing, this is kind of interesting. There's very few gimmick matches. They almost exclusively do straight wrestling matches.
Right. This last year was the first time there was a ladder. Was that last year or 2 years ago? The first time there was a ladder match.
It was
Kenny Omega and Elgin for the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, that was different. That was the first time they ever did that. They've never had a cage match ever in New Japan, and very rarely in Japan do they even have them, which is interesting.
Definitely no stairs matches.
What's a stairs match?
And sometimes with TLC they do tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs.
No.
Oh my gosh, you've never seen a stairs match?
There's a reason I'm hosting a New Japan podcast, man. Something else. So you asked us about the creative freedom given to the wrestlers. There is creative freedom. So, obviously there's bookers, but there's not agents laying out the matches for these guys. So they are responsible for setting up their own matches, their own spots, and to construct a match the way that they see fit. They're not being micromanaged.
Yeah, and nobody's handing them a script saying, "Here, read this tonight."
Yeah, there's no scripted promos.
Their promos, I'm sure Geto and Jado say, hey, here's the bullet points, and then those guys just go out and, freestyle the promo and make sure they hit the bullet points that Ghetto gives to them.
The face and heel alignment, although it does exist, because of the sport-centric nature of what they do, it's much more blurred.
Right. There are a lot of times that you will get face versus face, heel versus heel, because, you're trying to see who the best guy is. It's not always the good guy versus the bad guy. Both heels want to be the top guy, then you're going to have two heels fighting each other.
I think at this point, it's pretty much established that their champion Okada being the ace is essentially a face for the most part. But there was a period there, like a year or two ago, where he was still transitioning and he was kind of a heel. And it kind of depended on who he wrestled. He would transition from face to heel depending on the feud. And there's a lot of guys who are in that similar situation because it's not always so much a good versus evil as much as it is like the contest of who is the better wrestler, essentially. Just like in regular sports, there's guys who are ultra evil, guys who are ultra good, and then you got a lot of shades of gray there.
It's almost kind of that thing where the fans, they're not always booing or cheering the good guy, bad guy. They're picking their favorite team, quote unquote, their favorite person to get behind. So for example, this whole the Okada Naito rivalry, which we're gonna talk about a little bit more later on this show. But you have Okada, who's pretty much a babyface, Naito, who's a heel. But if you listen to the crowd reactions, it's pretty much 50-50 with people, half the crowd cheering for Okada, half the crowd cheering for Naito.
Talking about crowds, that's another thing to think about. So this is just Japan in general. It's not even really the way the company has established things, but culturally, you'll notice a lot of matches are pretty quiet, and as an American fan, it's almost jarring the first time you see it because you think that and you'll notice the match is really good and the crowd's quiet and you don't understand what's going on, and it's because they have and it's not always like this, but a lot of the times they're respectful of the performers, so they sit in silence to almost just be respectful, and then they pop for the big moves and the things that actually get them going. When you actually hear a New Japan crowd get heat or
go
crazy, then you know something major is happening because they don't always do that, and it's a big deal actually over there.
It's something pretty funny. There are some American fans that go to these shows, and I was watching Power Struggle on Access earlier today, the U.S. title match with Kenny Omega and Trent Beretta, and one of the table spots they did, you can hear the American fans going, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, the five of them. Japan fans don't do that.
No, they did it during at last year's Best of the Super Juniors with the Ricochet and Ospreay match.
Yeah.
And hearing Japanese fans do that at Cork and Hall is so great. I remember being like, are they really chanting this right now? Another thing. So there is a really big emphasis on tag team wrestling or multi-man wrestling. The top stars throughout the year very rarely wrestle one-on-one, and when they do, it's usually only in matches that mean something, or title matches, things that have title content, or tournaments. I was even reading something on Reddit today. Someone put out a post about the top 6 guys in New Japan and their win and loss records, and I think it was Okada had 18, maybe 19 singles matches that the whole year on record, because they only wrestle one-on-one on the big shows. Throughout the rest of the year, it's multi-man matches, and that's how their business is set up.
And that saves your big matches. You don't exhaust all your big one-on-one matches. And something else you mentioned, tournaments. New Japan does a lot tournaments.
Yeah, that's another one.
You have the G1 Climax in the summer. You have Best of the Super Juniors. Mm-hmm. You have Best of the Super Juniors Tag. You have the World Tag League we just finished. You have all these big tournaments in WWE. They used to be King of the Ring. They don't really do that anymore. Every once in a while, you'll have a Gold Rush tournament when they need to determine a number one contender or a champion, but it's not an emphasis. Vince McMahon hates tournaments. That's been very clear. Pritchard's mentioned it, and several other ex-writers have mentioned that Vince does not like tournaments.
Speaking of titles, their titles are treated with extreme respect and prestige, all the way from the top where you have the IWGP title, which is essentially their world title, going all the way down to the 6-man never tag titles, which is essentially their that'd be their European or hardcore title essentially. even that is treated with a lot of respect. It's a big deal to get a title push of any sort.
Right. And they keep track of the number of champions.
Yeah, and title defenses.
Right.
That's a big difference. In WWE, you've got the champion will go on tour and he'll wrestle the house show tour for Raw or SmackDown and defend the title like 20 times or something. You're not going to see that in New Japan. Like a title defense is going to be documented. It's going to be on tape, and it's going to be a big deal.
It's going to be recorded.
It's recorded. If you go on like Wikipedia, you can see how many times Hashimoto defended his title, or how many times Fujinami or Vader defended the title, and that's how they decide who has the most prestigious title runs and who was the most successful champions. Just like in real sports, like boxing, you can tell how many times someone had a successful title defense. It's a big deal. In WWE, we have no clue how many times someone defended the belt.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, those house show loops, they end the show, with AJ Styles is defending against Jinder one week, and he's defending against Rusev. He's defending all these title defenses, but WWE, what happened on the house show, they don't want us to keep track of. They only want you to keep track of what's happening on TV. New Japan, everything's important. Something's not going to happen on a house show that they don't want you to know about.
Right. Two other things, and I know there's a lot we've already covered. We'll probably wrap this up. Two things I just want to mention. Three. One, this is kind of interesting. New Japan has no women wrestlers on their roster. They've partnered in the past with some of the Joshi women's wrestling companies, but they almost have no women's wrestling matches ever. Another thing is the junior and the heavyweight division.
Right. Well, I mean, WWE now brought back the cruiserweight division, but
it's not the same.
It's treated differently. Cruiserweights in WWE, they're treated like the redheaded stepchild. They don't, give them enough TV time. They're treated as lesser stars. They're pretty much, trapped in their own little segments, and the crowd doesn't care.
Right.
In New Japan, even though the juniors are separate from the heavyweights, the division, they're still treated like stars. You'll get a pay-per-view with the junior title as the main event. Kushida will defend the junior title in the main event against somebody. Like, that can close a show in Japan.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like it's because of the sports centric nature of what they do. Being a junior literally just has to do with the fact that you're a smaller guy, and that's about it. It doesn't have to do with the fact of whether you're a lesser star or a bigger star. Just like how in MMA, George St. Pierre is not a heavyweight, but he's a big star. You can be a big star and be a junior. You just happen to be in that weight class, and that's how it's always been.
Right, it's like that sports base. It's
right.
all about the weight class.
Yep.
And you do have guys that move up weight class, like Kenny Omega. He used to be a junior. He moved up to the heavyweight division.
Most countries where wrestling is prominent, not all of them have weight divisions, but heavyweight is always seen as like the major, title. And that's no different in Japan. But like in Mexico, for instance, the heavyweight division is almost nothing. And the best stars are like the middleweights, the welterweights, the lightweights. And that did kind of care. Mexico does influence Japan a lot. And that's why they have such a vibrant junior division. Probably like historically, there's been no better junior division like throughout wrestling history than New Japan's. Winning their title means more than almost winning any other cruiserweight division title that exists out there. And the final thing is the factions.
Yes, that's right. New Japan, they are big into factions. There was a point in time where Vince was big into factions, but that's kind of changed. We have in New Japan, there's Chaos, Bullet Club, LIJ, Taguchi Japan, Chaos. You have all these factions, it's this like team mentality. Everybody, they're fighting for their team when they go out there.
It reminds me of a lot. I don't know how many of our listeners watch MMA, but when guys are like on American Top Team or the Black Zillions, or they fight for their team, they represent
right. It's like their training camp.
Their training camp, exactly. Right. That's sort of what a stable is like. It's not necessarily a bunch of guys that come out and cut a promo and jump guys like the Four Horsemen, even though there is some of that in New Japan. Suzuki Gun, and they have heel factions and stuff like that. But essentially, it's so that throughout the year when they have their tag matches, people have partners to partner with and train with and travel with. And it's not so much about like like DX running amok or something,
right?
Like that, or the NWO.
For example, a guy like Ishii, he's a member of Chaos. I mean, you're not going to always see him in a big, group promo with Okada and Yoshihashi and Goto. He's going out there in a one-on-one match. He's out there to win, but he's still representing that Chaos brand.
And, you asked us about the shareholders, TV companies, things like that. I don't think we can, with a lot of authority or certainty, cover that aspect of it. But I will say, I don't know. I think that they're not necessarily a publicly traded company. I think they were owned by Ukes, and then I forget the company that has the controlling interest in them now. But the bottom line with New Japan is they've got the best in-ring product when it comes to wrestling today. That's why we cover it and we like it so much. It's because the focus is on pro wrestling, and the biggest difference there is just to recap what Jeremy had said earlier, WWE's, even though they're a wrestling company and they're the biggest out there, their biggest focus is not always on the wrestling. It's on a lot of other things too, so
right.
That's it. There's a lot more we could cover, but those are some of the more
right. And Ricky and Clive, my advice for you guys, watch Wrestle Kingdom 12 and then watch WrestleMania this year, and you'll see the differences.
Yeah, Wrestle Kingdom is a great way to start the year getting into New Japan, because they're going to have the best matches of the year. Generally, everyone works the hardest, just like a WrestleMania, but even more so on Wrestle Kingdom, as crazy as that sounds. And, it's a great way because you get to see the culmination of all the stories of the year, and then you can watch New Year's Dash the next day, and then follow it if you like it. If not, no worries. Just,
Right.
But at least get some exposure to it, because it's really good.
Yeah. All right. So the next question comes from Rich Latta, the host of One Nation Radio here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network, also writing on the main page on lordsofpain.net. He says, we're going to get Jericho versus Naito, aren't we? And so, for those of you that haven't been following, Jericho and Naito have been going back and forth in the media and on social media about this whole issue about the main event. Originally Naito, he won the G1. He's challenging Okada for the heavyweight title in the main event of the show. But along comes Jericho challenging Kenny Omega for the U.S. title, and it's now a double main event. New Japan is promoting it as a double main event. Jericho and Omega are promoting it as a double main event, and Naito does not like that.
And Keepin It Strong Style, we are clearly promoting one of those matches. If you caught our last episode, we had a really freaking awesome intro. Good job on that, Jeremy.
Thank you.
No, but I'm just playing. But this has been really interesting. The question is, are we going to get Jericho Naito? I guess the real question is, are we going to get Jericho again after Wrestle Kingdom, period?
Right. And for those of you who don't know, Jericho, he's actually signed on to wrestle the next night at the New Year's Dash show, which always happens the night after Wrestle Kingdom. It's almost like the Raw after Mania.
Well, you know what, to be honest with you, I wasn't sure if he was going to wrestle it. I'm not surprised. Most of the guys that work the Tokyo Dome always work New Year's Dash the next day, even if they're not like an official signed New Japan guy. There was I can't remember if it was an interview or podcast. Essentially the same thing, but they were talking to Jericho this week. Somebody was, and they said something about him only wrestling, one match in Japan. And he said, I never said I was going to wrestle one match in Japan. I said I would wrestle one match against Kenny. And he kind of just left it at that, which would lead you to believe, oh, maybe he's playing it close to the vest. Is he actually planning to work in Japan again? But then there's deniability there. Jericho likes to work people and keep them guessing. Maybe he just meant that he's working, New Year's Dash the next day and that's it. Or maybe there's something more to this. And this whole thing between him and Naito is actually the building blocks to another feud. Who knows? What if Naito wins the title and Jericho's his next title challenger? Right. I don't know.
You never know. Honestly, at this point, I would not be surprised to see Jericho versus Naito.
I would.
Really?
To a degree, I was surprised that Jericho is here at all.
Right. Well, at this point, we saw how it all started with Omega. It started with them going back and forth on Twitter and the media. So the same thing's happening now with Naito. The seeds are planted.
I get it, but I would still just be surprised because in my mind, Jericho's still a Vince McMahon guy. And at the end of the day, he knows where his bread is buttered. And I would really be surprised to see him stick around any longer than this one show. Maybe I'm stupid and I shouldn't be so surprised about, Jericho can do whatever he wants, but I would be surprised. I'm not saying that it can't happen or it won't happen. Right. And I think most of us at this point, we don't want to get worked by Jericho anymore. we don't want to get the wool pulled over our eyes. But I'm hesitant to say that. I think it really depends on how things go at the Tokyo Dome. Or maybe they've already got a deal signed.
We have no idea.
We got no idea.
We got to watch and see.
But I mean, it sounds like Rich. I mean, you tell us, bro. It sounds like you think that Jericho and Naito are gonna have a match. I mean, it could be. It could be.
We also got one more question from Rich. He asked us...
Why? Why? Bro, you don't get to come on our show and ask 2 questions. Skip it. Nah, go ahead.
So he asked about Cody Rhodes. Is he good? Yes or no?
Of course.
I think he's good. He's not great, but he's good.
Well, he could be great.
He could be great. He's definitely gotten a lot better since he's left WWE. He's been having a lot better matches. And he just had a title run as a Ring of Honor World Champion, which he just lost at Final Battle.
I mean, I think what Rich is really asking us is he good in the ring? I mean,
is he good enough to be in New Japan or fight on New Japan?
I think he's good enough to be in New Japan, of course. Can he get over New Japan? It's the big question. I mean, he doesn't really fit the mold of most famous gaijin that have been over there. You've got super uber athletic, like junior type wrestlers, including Kenny Omega, who Kenny's not a junior anymore, but I mean, the style of wrestling he wrestles.
He got over as a junior.
He got over as a junior, and I mean, he carried that up to the heavyweight division. I mean, he's so athletic. I mean, and then you look at like the monster gaijins, the Vaders, the freaking Dr. Deaths, and the Stan Hansens, and Cody's nothing like any of those guys. I guess you could say Cody is maybe akin to, like, not to say he's as good as Ric Flair, but maybe something like a more classic standard wrestler. I don't know too many of them. I don't know, maybe Johnny Ace, but maybe Johnny Ace is one of the only guys I could think of that like really got over in Japan wrestling that way. But Cody's been, every time Cody goes over there, I mean, maybe it's just because he hasn't had enough time or in front of the cameras, or like something about his gimmick doesn't translate yet, but they don't care about him at all.
Yeah.
They don't care about him in Japan.
Yeah, personally, I think he just needs more time over there. He's only been over there a handful of times, not as much as times as like the Young Bucks and even Marty Scurll. So,
but there's other guys like Marty Scurll's a great example, who, because of his gimmick, is just over right away.
Right.
And because of his in-ring work, he's over night one. Whereas Cody's they put him in prominent matches. He had the match with Juice last year. He went over on Elgin.
He had the match with Okada at Long Beach.
Now, that was his best match I've ever seen Cody in. And I mean, of course it was with Okada. And I think that does answer some of the question that you have, Rich. Is he good? Yes, he's very good. I don't think I ever see Cody in anything less than like 3 to 3.5. So, and I mean, we live in a 6-star generation, of course, but
right.
3 stars used to mean that this was a decent to passable match. It's a good match. I thought that match with Okada was like 4.25, maybe like around there. It was very, very good, and I think Cody could be great, but he's still young. The jury's out on Cody. I mean, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, give us some more time. I would love to see him in the G1 next year.
I didn't think he got the opportunities to be great when he was in WWE, and some of the times where they did let him try to deliver, he did, but then they would pull back on his push.
Right, that's in WWE, that start and stop pushing on certain guys. They give you a little bit and then they pull the rug underneath you.
In Ring of Honor this year, from what I've seen, I really haven't been too impressed, to be honest with you. In fact, his last match I saw, I was underwhelmed significantly. I think Cody has enough tools and talent to be better than what he is, but I don't think Cody's bad. Cody is good. So, I mean, that's our answer. Cody's good. We'll see if he's great.
All right. And the last question in the mailbag comes from Dylan James, one of the most active members in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. That's our community group on Facebook.
And he's a member of Team Instinct. What's the
for Pokemon Go?
Yeah, wasn't that his picture for a long time?
I think so.
It was the Zapdos or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not Mystic, and it's I think
it's Instinct.
Yeah, Team Instinct. What's up?
All right, so he says, even if New Japan went live on Access TV, would they be considered to be competition for WWE in the U.S. if it were to remain on Access TV?
That's a pretty loaded question. I mean, well, we have to suppose a couple things. When you say if it went live on Access TV, so we're assuming, do you mean like live weekly or live like just for some big shows? And by live, in order for them to run live in the US, they have to run basically in the US, because there's no way they're going to run live New Japan shows at 3 and 4 a.m. in the morning on Access. So that's one thing to clear up there.
Nobody's. I mean, you could always set your DVR, but you want the live rating. Nobody's gonna wake up 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning to turn to Access to watch it.
Fast forwarding, let's just say hypothetically, New Japan in some capacity is running live in some either regular or semi-regular capacity here in America. Are they going to be competition for WWE? Absolutely. They're competition. Are they going to like overrun WWE or like take over? Absolutely not.
Yeah, WWE, I mean, they are the top promotion in America, and I think they always will be. They're so established, I don't think anybody is going to come and knock them off.
When you look at the production value and just think about this, Dylan, Vince, and this isn't a WWE show. How many shares did Vince McMahon just sell?
Like millions.
But how many shares were they? It wasn't that much. It was like,
wasn't it 1 million?
No, I mean no. It was shares.
Yeah.
Man, I wish we would have done our homework because we didn't. I didn't think of this. All I know is that like he sold like 100 million like shares worth of stock, and he still has, I think I was reading, he still has like 80% controlling vested like interest in the company.
Right.
So you're talking about a billionaire, a company that's backed by billions of dollars, billions. There are other companies like Ring of Honor is backed by Sinclair, and Sinclair is much bigger than WWE, but the actual money machine that's invested in Ring of Honor, it's not even hardly a fraction of what WWE gets. Same thing with New Japan. They might be the second biggest company in the world, and they might be very lucrative and be doing well business-wise, but if you watch the shows like me and Jeremy do, when they're touring, we talked about it earlier where they tour, they're not running in 10,000 seat arenas every night. They're running in like 2,000. Yeah,
2,000. I mean, we saw in the World Tag League, I mean, they were running like little gymnasiums.
Yeah, they run. It's funny because they run their tour shows the same way that a local indie promotion in North America or like in Europe, like Progress and all those guys might, or even RevPro. But then they run the big shows and they'll go to a giant arena or they'll go to the Tokyo Dome and they'll do big ticket sales. And they are one of the only companies out there outside of like Mexico and outside of America that are running small independent shows and then running big shows. So, but like when you compare it to WWE, even with WWE's house shows being down and everything, they run arenas. That's all they run is arenas. All the money, the merchandise, the revenue that they bring in, there really is no company, even with New Japan getting on television, they would have a television product, but they would not have the touring power, the revenue.
Right. I mean, you'll never see a main roster show at a high school gymnasium. You'll see NXT in like a small little 500-seat building, but you'll never see a main roster show in a 500-seat building.
I mean, I think that their idea of their business model and success for them is very different from what we are traditionally used to seeing growing up in the 90s, seeing companies like WCW and WWE. We have a different idea, but like at the end of the day, the simple answer is there is no company in the world that's even a close second to the size and the power that WWE has behind it. Even with a lot of the mistakes they make and all the various different gripes people have, they make money in spite of themselves. Right. They are making a lot of money.
But I will say this, with the more and more that New Japan is on Access and the better those shows do, you are going to see more of an American footprint for the New Japan promotion here, and it's just going to get more popular. You're going to see more t-shirts and Hot Topics. There'll be more shows here.
I think them coming here doesn't threaten WWE as much as I mean, yeah, it could be a threat, but at the end of the day, it benefits the industry. It benefits business for WWE to have a company that actually challenges them and gives them competition in any sort of sense and creates a different cultural psyche of, what is wrestling and these different products that are out there. And the more and more people become aware of it and get exposed to this type of wrestling and this type of product, it's better for the health of wrestling as an industry, which is what is needed. That's pretty much my take on it, really.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up Access TV, Dylan, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about with New Japan and Access TV. First of all, we briefly mentioned it on a show a couple weeks ago, but Wrestle Kingdom 12 will be airing on Access. What is it, the next day?
It's 2 days.
The 2-day tape delay. 3-hour special. They're showing the 3 big matches. The IWGP Intercontinental title match with Tanahashi against Switchblade Jay White. The US title match with Omega and Jericho. And the heavyweight title match with Naito and Okada. This is a big... Mark Cuban, he owns the Access Network. He had to pay a lot of money to get Wrestle Kingdom 12 to be on a 2-day tape delay. And Mark Cuban also recently did a interview with Sports Illustrated, kind of talking about New Japan's success on the network, and how much of a fan he is of Jim Ross. And he said he started tuning in just because he likes Jim Ross, but he's actually becoming a fan of New Japan and just how rabid the fan base is for the product.
It's interesting because, and we talked a bit about this, like you said, a few weeks ago, but I didn't feel like we covered this enough because this is a big deal. Mark Cuban being the founder and CEO of Access TV. Him just acknowledging the success that New Japan is having is a huge boost just in general. It's a huge affirmation because they run their Access TV fights every single Friday night. They used to have, before New Japan was on it, it was strictly MMA and some kickboxing. They used to have an MMA show with I think it was Mauro Ranallo and Boss Rutan. Yeah, and it was a really good show, and they canceled that, and then they started bringing on the New Japan show a couple of years ago, and he said that over the past few years, the New Japan show is not live, except for when they did the G1 special last year, or this past year. It's a canned show, it's on tape delay, and the matches that are happened a long time ago in most cases, months ago, and the fact that he said that these shows are getting higher ratings than the live MMA matches, they're making money. Access TV is making money by airing New Japan. The bottom line is they're profitable off of it.
Exactly. And, speaking of, we talked about the Long Beach show last year that aired live. Well, New Japan is coming back to Long Beach March 25th for the Strong Style Evolve show. The website for that show is launched. Keep your eyes peeled for tickets for that because it's going to sell out very quickly.
What is it's strongstyleevolve.com or something?
No, the best way to go, just go to NJPW 1972.com and you'll see the link for it, the site there on the main page.
I think they said the tickets are not out yet, but
just keep your eyes peeled. But that I'm assuming they haven't made the Access announcement yet, but you can only assume that they are going to air those shows live again. Well, that's only one show this time on Access.
He said that they're working with New Japan to create a relationship so that, and this is what Mark Cuban was talking about, to where he said that they want to do more live shows. And if he's saying he wants to do live shows, he's not talking about, we talked about this earlier, he's not talking about airing things at 3 and 4 or 5 in the morning.
He wants prime time, 8 p.m. He wants more shows in the United States.
That means United States television and programming. He said that they paid, Jeremy said it, but they paid a lot of money. He said that they had to pay New Japan a ton of money to get that 2-day tape delay. And he said that throughout the year, when these big shows are coming up, I'm assuming things like Dominion and King of Pro Wrestling, that they're going to show those sooner, on a 2-day tape delay.
And I have to say, this year, 2017, they did a better job than they did in 2016, bringing the matches a little bit closer. They weren't as far out as they were before. They're actually probably only a month or so off now.
Well, they were playing catch up for years, trying to catch up to where they are now, and they've just kind of started to get. We're a month behind most of the time at this point on Access TV. But going back to what we were saying, essentially, Mark Cuban wants to have live U.S. specials. Right. I think it's interesting how we're not getting a 2-day show this time like we did for the G1 special for this Strong Style Evolve show. It almost leads me to believe that maybe, just maybe, we might get a tour or multiple night shows here in the U.S. in the near future throughout this year, possibly.
Who knows? After the Long Beach show last year, they announced that they would be back. So after this Strong Style Evolve show, there might be, a surprise announcement that they're coming back again in 2018. So that's something we'll have to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, I don't know how it's all going to shake out for their U.S. expansion and, trying to run their company as a regional promotion the way that a territory did, out of California. I don't know how ultimately that will play out here in the U.S., but just the idea that we get more exposure in our time zone instead of having to watch it on delay is a really cool idea. And the fact that a guy like Mark Cuban, who's a billionaire and he owned the Dallas Mavericks and, he's like this tech icon, that he has this hot product on his radar and he's talking about it in Sports Illustrated, it just goes to show you like how marketable a foreign product like New Japan is in America.
Like I said, the American footprint's just going to keep getting bigger the hotter New Japan gets. So we're going to transition now.
Great question, Dylan.
Yeah. And guys, feel free to keep sending us questions in the Wrestling Squared Circle group, or you can tweet us at KI Strong Style. Retweet me at Jeremy L. Donovan. Now we're going to talk about the Road to Tokyo Dome shows that happened on 12/17 and 12/18. These were, okay shows. I would say the angles on these shows were more interesting than the actual matches for the most part. Would you agree with that?
Don't ask me to talk about it. I'm pulling it up on my iPad. I have to remember what happened on these shows. No, they were good. They were Road to Tokyo Dome shows. The Road to shows are, they're not big shows.
Right. They're just set up for the big shows. And but there were a lot of news that came out of these shows. One of the big things that we talked about a lot was the Never 6-man titles being on the line. Evil, Sonata, and Bushi defended the titles against Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and Bad Luck Fale.
That was December 17th. That was a week ago. Okay,
right.
So night one.
And like you said, that LIJ would probably lose the 6-man titles on a Road to show. That's exactly what happened. Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, they defeated LIJ and became the new Never 6-man champions.
Yeah, that was interesting. No, I watched both of these shows, and the burnout from watching Tag League the way that it was, it was nice to have a little break and then to kind of jump back into these Road 2 shows. And they were easy to digest. There was nothing that was blow away. The never open 6-man tag match was just okay. They did work me a little bit. There was a point where, because obviously I knew that LIJ was going to drop the titles. It's the only thing that made sense. But there was a point in the match where they got... What's the move that they... Is it the Magic Killer?
Yeah, Magic Killer.
They stole that from Guns N' Gallows.
Right.
Yeah, so they got Fale up for after Bushi sprayed him with the mist, and they got him up for the Guns N' Gallows, or for the Magic Killer. All three of them. And when they dropped him, I was like... They won. They popped me for a minute, and then I had to remember in my mind they can't win. And then the pinfall got broken up, and then they ended up. How'd they lose in that match?
If I remember correctly, I believe Bad Luck Fale hit the grenade on Bushi. He got his revenge on Bushi, hit the grenade, got the pinfall, and now Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga, and Tangaloa are your new Never 6-man champions, and they'll be defending those titles at Wrestle Kingdom. We'll talk a little bit more about that later.
We can talk about the Young Lions matches, I guess, when we start to cover the tournament. But they opened both of these shows with Young Lion qualifying matches for the tournament. Other than that, there was some tag team, like multi-man tag team matches. There wasn't anything that was like really like blow away. Really,
we saw the debut of Masked Horse. Well, we talked about that last week. We saw on New Japan lineup. We were like, "What is Masked Horse?" And it ended up being Taguchi under a lucha mask with like a horse.
Why are you giving it away right away? No suspense, no showmanship. Hey guys, this is what happened. No, I'm just playing.
But the first night they were, selling it pretty big. Like, who is this guy under the mask?
The weirdest thing was those promo videos that they aired before he came out. I think that maybe it's a cultural thing. I didn't understand because we can't understand what they were talking about. But I was like, what is this freaking video with this dude? And then he came out and he was chewing on the carrot.
Yeah.
And spanking himself with the whip or whatever it is. It was weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. But the next night, they ripped the mask off. It was revealed that it was Taguchi. Obviously, everybody knew it was Taguchi, but everybody was playing along. But
it was the big reveal.
Yeah, the mask took off. It was Taguchi.
They the promo that you told me about after the first night, and then I went and watched it when he was like
hilarious. He's like, I was abandoned by my parents, and then I was raised by horses, and then I got abandoned by the horses, and I was raised by a pro wrestler and trained in pro wrestling.
And he's like, I wrestle for my master, and they're like, who's your master? He's like, he doesn't want me to say, but my movements are very similar to him. You'll be able to tell who he is when I'm in the ring. And we're like, what? I don't remember who it was. One of his teammates, it might have been like Kojima.
Yeah. After
the first night, and they were walking off, he was like, because they were supposed to team with Tanahashi, and he's like, Tanahashi, please come back.
Yeah, it was Kojima.
Yeah,
he said, Tanahashi, he's like, hurry up and come back. He walks off. Then somebody was like, your voice sounds familiar.
Oh yeah, no, that was Kushida. Kushida's like, he's like, who are you? And he's like, nobody. And he's like, your voice sounds familiar. And he's like, oh, okay. And then I'm trying to So like there was the Suzuki Gun match against Hinari, Tiger Mask, and Jushin Liger, and no, I'm sorry. When was Minoru coming out with the Clippers? When was that?
That was the first night because he shaved Yagi, and Yagi was shaved for the second night. Oh,
my bad. So I'm talking about the wrong Suzuki Gun match. Okay, so Chaos wrestled Suzuki Gun. That was a tag team match, and So Suzuki comes out with the Clippers, and he freaking shaved Yagi, the young boy, shaved his head after the match. That was crazy. And I mean, obviously, it's been confirmed that there's going to be a hair match, so that's part of the gimmick. We'll talk more about that. But that was one of the angles was, Suzuki acting like a madman, just going around ringside, like threatening to shave people with the Clippers.
But we can talk a little bit more about that hair versus hair match right now.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when that was first announced, or they were first doing that angle that was going to be hair versus hair, I was kind of confused.
Yeah, me too.
Why were they doing, like we mentioned earlier, they don't really do gimmick matches like this. But then if you watch the promos with the English subtitles on their YouTube channel, Goto is so desperate to get back the Never title and get a shot at Suzuki that he's willing to put up his hair. That's all he has to give up, to put on the line to get this Never title match.
Well, all throughout the tag tournament, almost every promo he did was about Suzuki, and Suzuki just kept saying, like, why does he keep challenging me? I already beat him this year, and I'm saying the same thing. Why does he keep challenging him? We already saw Suzuki beat this man. Right. And Suzuki basically was saying, like, there's no reason to fight him because he has the belt. He already beat him. He's the better man. There's nothing really to prove. And I mean, he said it in his own Suzuki way. So when we first saw this break, I was like, a hair versus hair match. This is not Mexico.
Right. And it's
it has no meaning.
Suzuki, I mean, half of his hair is already gone anyway.
Yeah, and Goto, Goto doesn't seem like a guy that would care about having a bald head or even having hair at all. Like, he seems like a pretty low key guy, or like a pretty low maintenance dude. I don't think he's like he's not like a Tyler Breeze character where he really cares about his looks or his hair, So
right. It was really confusing at first.
How's that shame, But then as we started to go back and watch the English promos, which for those of you who are listening, you can actually go on YouTube and go on the New Japan English page and watch the promos in English, and it kind of gave more insight where Goto basically said that when he tried to challenge Suzuki, he said he wouldn't face him because he had nothing to offer. So he's like, well, I have nothing left to offer, so I offered to shave my head basically if I lose. And the story is, this is a man that's so desperate to get a title shot, he will literally risk anything he has to just to be able to get his hands on Minoru Suzuki one more time and get a chance at the Never title. And then Suzuki basically said in his promo, why does Goto care about his hair? So we asked the same question we did, and he said, I get it. When the new trainees come in, they get their head shaved. So it's like it's almost like a demoralizing, or like you have to like a humbling sort of experience.
He's pretty much, if he loses, he'll be lowering himself to young boy status.
Yeah, he'll be lowering himself to the young boy status, and the other guy gets the championship. So then that's why they made it a hair versus hair match. Well, at first it was just Goto, but then as time went on, it seemed like Suzuki got so fixated on the idea of the Clippers and laying it all on the line that he said, all right, whoever wins this match, not only do they get everything, they get the title, and the other guy gets the Clippers. Right. So whoever loses, so it's hair versus hair at this point. So either Suzuki or Goto is going bald in the Tokyo Dome.
Right.
And then the final stipulation with that match, there's going to be no interference.
That's right, yeah. No seconds, as Suzuki said in one of the English promos.
You know, do you know what seconds out means? Are you like familiar with that?
No, but I'm assuming that means like your seconds, like your manager or somebody that comes behind you comes second to you.
Yeah, I was on the New Japan Reddit today, and a lot of guys didn't know what seconds out was, and I felt weird because I don't know. I guess I watch like a lot of anime with like boxing and stuff where the guy, your second is your corner man, or the guy that comes, and that's to Ricky and Clive. That's another thing in New Japan. They have a lot of seconds, guys that come and manage the other guys. But anyways, obviously there's a lot of interference with Suzuki and his handlers. And so a lot of people on Reddit were like, what are seconds? Like, because they were literally thinking of seconds like in time.
Right.
And I was thinking, oh, it's the guy that comes out with you and trains. So it's weird that people don't know that. But anyways, Goto basically in a promo told Suzuki, you cannot win without interference, basically. And that infuriated Suzuki to the point he said, all right, at this point, I'm going to prove I'm the better man. I'm going to humble you, Goto. I'm going to shut you up once and for all. Hair's on the line, title's on the line, no interference. No one's allowed, chaos not allowed to be.
That means no Takamichi no Who, no Desperado, no Izuka,
no Taichi,
no Kanemaru,
no KS. Yeah. They're none of them, and no chaos. So there's gonna be no Suzuki gun, no chaos. It's a straight up one-on-one fight to the finish, and whoever wins gets the belt, and whoever wins gets the Clippers.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
So
and then the last match of that show was so we got 2 nights of this, and we can cover it, I guess, both nights. We got Okada and Yoshihashi the first night against Takahashi and Naito, and then we had another tag match the second night with
Okada and Roppongi 3K.
That's right, 6-man
against who was that? Naito. Who else was on? Who's on Naito's team that night?
I can look.
Okay. Bushi and Takahashi.
Oh yeah, so it was juniors and heavyweights, yeah.
So at the end of the first night in that tag match, like they said, it was Okada and Yoshihashi against Naito and Takahashi. Okada, he used that new Cobra Clutch submission on Takahashi, tapped him out.
He put Naito in it again, right?
Right.
It's like the 4th or 5th time he's done
right,
it.
Well, he refused to break the hold on Takahashi, and Naito tried to break it up, but Okada was like no selling the kicks, but then Okada left him laying with the tombstone and the Rainmaker. That's right. And then the next night was a 6-man tag. At the end of that match, you had Naito pick up the win. He hit the Destino on, I believe, Show.
Yeah.
And so Naito got the win there.
I'm still not sure which one's Show and which one's Yo, to be honest.
I know. I'm having a hard time figuring out which one's Show and which one's Yo.
I gotta look.
It was actually Yo that he hit the Destino on. And so then after the match, they kind of went back and forth on promos, and then Okada eventually locked in that Cobra Clutch on Naito, but Naito countered and hit Destino.
So I guess, we talked about this in the last show where, this Cobra Clutch finish is supposed to be some sort of big counter to stop the Destino, and he's put it on Naito and left him laying in the ring on more than one occasion so far, leading up into their match at the Tokyo Dome. So on the final night of the road to Tokyo Dome, Naito countered it, but I wasn't really impressed with his counter, because his counter was essentially when he goes to put on the Cobra Clutch, Naito arm drags.
Yeah, it was
him.
pretty much like an arm drag or like a jab throw. It wasn't anything big.
Yeah, so it wasn't anything where I was like, oh, that's devastating. I don't know if that's officially his counter.
But he's proved that he can counter it.
Right.
So maybe at Wrestle Kingdom he'll pull out a better counter for it.
And then he kicked Okada in the nuts. And then hit him with Destino. The interesting thing was the first night when Okada was left standing tall, it was cool, and then he came, to the back and he cut a promo. But the second night when Naito was left standing tall, they rained snow, confetti, and it was like a championship celebration. And all he did was kick this man in the balls and freaking hit his finisher on him. I was surprised by that, because I guess the idea is to leave Naito looking strong, to really create the doubt in people's minds that, hey, he's capable of winning the title, which he absolutely is.
Right.
But I was really puzzled a little bit by that. I'm it reminded me of when I was at when I was at SummerSlam '93 and they rained the confetti for Lex Luger, but he didn't win the title, and I was confused when I went, or the balloons, and I went home and I thought he'd won the belt.
Right.
And my dad had explained to me, no, he won by count out, and I was like, wait, then why did they drop all that confetti and balloons? You mean he did not win the belt? I couldn't understand that, but I was wondering, do you think that them leaving Naito standing tall like that is an indicator? I mean, if this is WWE, we know Naito's not going to win the belt, essentially. Right. I don't know.
I mean, personally, next week we're going to do our Wrestle Kingdom 12 preview and predictions, but I'll just say it right now. I think LIJ are winning all their matches at the Dome. I think Naito is going to win the title.
Do you think that them leaving that scene that way was a precursor to what's actually going to happen, or is it something that's supposed to create doubt in people's minds, or what were they doing?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, it's creating doubt, can Okada withstand another intense title match, or is Naito going to do the same thing here and get the win? And this feud has started to become more personal. Naito won MVP in Tokyo Sports. We mentioned that last week. Yeah. He also won MVP in one of the weekly pro wrestling magazines.
Oh, so he won in Weekly Pro and in Tokyo Sports.
Right. So both. He won 2 MVPs. And so...
you were saying that earlier, and you were saying that we were going to cover that today, and I was like, we already covered that last week, and then it just dawned on me. You're talking about Weekly Pro.
Right. Weekly Pro Wrestling Reader Awards voted Naito as the Japanese MVP and the most popular wrestler.
Man.
So Okada has been kind of throwing that in Naito's face, especially after night 1. He was like, oh, I bet you're happy being, MVP. Well, that's not me. I'm a pro wrestler. Yeah. I'm happy winning.
He was like, I bet you... Basically, he left Naito laying in the ring the first night, and then he was like, hey, big man.
Yeah.
Like Ric Flair. Hey there, big man. No, but he's basically saying, hey, you're the MVP.
You're the MVP,
you're the MVP.
But I left you laying.
Hats off to you, man. You're the big draw around here, right? But I left you laying, and I got the gold strap.
That's right. He's like, I'm the champion. You can be the MVP all you want, but I'm the IWGP heavyweight champion.
Hey, to be the man, you gotta beat the man, Naito. That's what he's basically saying. And then, so going on to the second night, what were you mentioning there?
So before that whole encounter happened, they were kind of going back and forth on the promo. Pretty much Okada was kind of throwing that in Naito's face about the whole MVP stuff. That was kind of the breakdown to their brawl.
Man, it's interesting. I didn't realize he won it for Weekly Pro too. Have you ever seen the Weekly Pro and Tokyo Dome show?
I have not.
Oh man, that's a really interesting story. In 1995, Weekly Pro, which is, aside from Tokyo Sports, the other largest and I think at the time was like the largest publication for Puroresu and all wrestling in Japan. They decided to run their own wrestling show, like their own sponsored wrestling show that they held, and every single major promotion in Japan had a match represented on the show. So there was like IWA, All Japan, New Japan, and then all sorts of like independents, and it's like one of the most famous. It's one of the most famous like cards in in Japanese wrestling history, because it was like 60,000 people in the Tokyo Dome, and the top two matches was All Japan and New Japan. And in the All Japan match, they had a 6-man tag that Dave Meltzer said was like 5 stars, and it like blew everything on the show away. And then in the main event, they had Chono and I think maybe it was Chono and Muda or Chono and Hashimoto, and it like stunk up the joint, and people like were literally leaving. And because New Japan was the bigger company at the time and had more sway, they literally put an injunction on Weekly Pro from ever releasing the tape, and so it never got released commercially at all.
Wow.
Because they didn't want their biggest competitor. It'd be like if WCW put on a show last that sucked, and WWF at the same time had put on a show that was like 5 stars right before it.
Right.
They wouldn't want
that tape to be released. Right.
Yeah. So but you know what the interesting thing is, you can find this entire show on YouTube. You can find, it's a long show. It's like 5 or 6 hours, but you can't. There's no tape that exists of the main event. You can't find it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Also, on night 2 of the Road to Tokyo Dome show, Tanahashi returned.
Oh yeah, the Tanahashi promo.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
He returned, and he was attacked by Switchblade Jay White.
Yeah, he came out and like made an announcement, just that like, hey, my knee's getting better. You know, this is what's going on. Let's talk about Tanahashi's hair for a minute.
Yeah, dude. I was watching this and doing a little bit of tweeting on our show account at KI Strong Style, and I said, what is Tanahashi doing with his hair? It's like a mess right now.
I was like, who is this woman that's calling herself Hiroshi Tanahashi, and why is she in the ring right now? Yeah. I did not understand who. Even though he's the ace, man, he's got to get a handle on what's going on.
Yeah, he needs to tighten up with his hair. But like you mentioned, he said that
he was getting better, and
he will be at the Tokyo Dome to defend the IWGP IC title.
And then all of a sudden, Jay White comes down the aisle and comes in the ring and starts confronting him, and he basically. Tanahashi takes off his jacket. He's like, hey, you want to do it? We can do it right now.
And then Jay White takes off his jacket, and then they go to blows.
I think Jay White said, you don't want to do that. You don't remember what happened last time we were in the ring together. And then they start going to blows. I think Tanahashi was getting the better of the exchange first.
And then Jay White did like a chop block or he
attacked the knee.
Yeah.
He did. He did a dragon screw.
Yeah, he attacked the injured knee.
And then So he put him in the freaking Gary Goodridge UFC spot where he put him in the crucifix. He tied up his arm and his leg, and he started throwing elbows and hammers. Like, have you ever seen that clip with Gary Goodridge? He knocks that dude out.
No.
Oh, Jeremy, I gotta show you this, bro.
We'll watch that after this.
It's like one of the most famous like UFC knockouts ever. It's like a 12-second match, and the guy gets caught in that same spot, and he goes to sleep for real. And so, anyways, Tanahashi literally got left knocked out.
So second time in a row, Jay White has left Tanahashi laying. Do you think this is too much too soon for Switchblade Jay White?
I'm a fan of the product, but I can't say that I've seen a lot of Jay White. I hear he's very good. A lot of people a lot of like New Japan fans are predicting that he's going to be like one of the next big things. I saw him wrestle WrestleMania weekend last year, and he was pretty good, but there was nothing that to me that indicated like this guy's going to be the next big star. So when he came back and they gave him this push, I didn't really know what to make of it, and I still kind of don't. I am surprised that they're putting him in such a prominent role. I don't think that like Gato and those guys though would do this if they didn't have some sincere faith in him, and I don't think Tanahashi would work this program with him unless they really saw something in him.
Wrestling Tanahashi in the Tokyo Dome is a very big deal. It's almost like wrestling The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Not anybody got to do it. It's usually somebody, the company has faith in,
I can't say that I know that it's going to be a great match or anything, but I feel like they've been putting him over huge in these last two segments that they did back in what was that? That was Power Struggle the first time he attacked him.
Yes, Power Struggle. Yep, the same night that Jericho was there. Yeah, so that was Power Struggle.
And then the second time, I mean, he really left Tanahashi laying. I felt bad. I was like, man, he freaking knocked out the ace again. Like,
well, it's funny. I told Rich this the other day. I was like, Jay White can do whatever he wants, but he better not injure Tanahashi so we can't see him WrestleMania weekend.
I caught his promo after the match, and he, essentially, I thought his promo was pretty good.
Jay White's promo, yeah, I saw that.
But he said something to him. He's like, Tanahashi, you can call yourself the ace all day, but you're not the ace. I see it in your eyes. You don't believe it, and I definitely don't believe it. You're not the man that you once were, and I'm going to prove it to everybody. I don't know. Something about that it really reminded me of Owen Hart telling Bret Hart that he's going to take him out. Right. This young upstart kid.
Also, kind of remind me a little bit of legend killer Randy Orton.
Yeah. It had a little bit of that young Randy Orton flair to it. Telling Mick Foley how he's going to put him out. So I'm excited for it. I thought that was the best angle of the second night for sure.
Yeah. And then also there was a press conference after that second night, and it was announced that
the next morning.
Yeah. It was before the show. Then it was either before or after the show.
Man, we don't know. We're in America.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, whatever. The press conference happened the same day.
It happened, guys.
And it was announced that Jericho versus Omega is now no disqualifications.
That's in a way huge, and in a way not really a big deal at all at the same time.
Right. Well, here's the thing. In New Japan, like we mentioned earlier, they really don't do gimmick matches. They really don't do no disqualification matches, partially because the refs usually let them get away with doing whatever they want anyway.
You hit it right on the head. So that's why I was like, it's a big deal because they don't do gimmick matches, so it's a huge deal. But then the fact that almost every match feels like it's a no DQ match makes it seem like, why is this even a gimmick?
which means they're probably going to take it to a whole nother level. They're probably going to do crazy spots. And honestly, I think this no DQ stipulation helps Jericho because, he is older. He's not the same, Jericho in his very prime. And they can rely on the no DQ gimmick to help get a better match.
I've heard a lot of people say that, and I see where you're coming from. That I don't. I think that could be partially true, but I don't fully agree with that. I thought that Jericho's match with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania last year was great. I think Jericho at this point, especially with a worker like Kenny Omega, are they capable of pulling out a 4.5 to 5 star match in the standard big match Wrestle Kingdom scenario? I think so. I don't think he's at the point in his career where he needs.
Right. He doesn't need the no DQ, but I think that helps.
But guys are acting like he does.
Right. I don't think he needs it, but it helps, and it helps make it different from Okada and Naito.
I think that's a good point. I think it does make it different. What I think is, I don't even know, man. You know what I think? I think that Kenny and Jericho have been hanging out, and they started watching a bunch of Mid-South and a bunch of CWA, and they're like, I've never done this in my career. And Kenny's like, I've never done this in my career. He's like, what if we just ran a Magnum versus Tully angle and wrestled a match like that? And they're like, yeah. That's what I really think is going on here. I don't think it's so much that they need it or whatever. I think they just I think creatively, this is just what they want to do.
I mean, it makes sense with the last angle that happened at the World Tag League Finals in Fukuoka.
Yeah, well, it had to go this way after that angle, after the two attacks.
Right, you can't have them going there in a normal one-on-one match.
Well, I mean, you had Roman Reigns and Triple H try to do that, and look how that turned out. They had a blood feud build-up. Freaking Triple H left Roman Reigns bleeding on Monday Night Raw in the go-home show, and then they come out there.
They had a standard wrestling match.
They had a classic.
They had a Triple H wrestling match.
They had a classic Catch as Catch Can Jack Briscoe versus Dory Funk Jr. wrestling match.
Oh man.
That was terrible. And I remember the build up for that show, we were like, there's no way this isn't going to be no DQ. There's no way it's not going to be a street fight. Oh, there was a way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the logical booking is with the type of angles that they ran, this has to be a no DQ match. And I mean, I can only think of a few matches like this ever in New Japan. I mean, Bad Luck Fale and Makabe had a last man standing match like 4 or 5 years ago.
Like we mentioned, there was a ladder match with Omega and Elgin.
This year they had some like death matches with
the Texas bull rope death match with Yano and Suzuki.
Yeah, and then Suzuki had another death match with Goto. It was but really all it was a a lumberjack match.
Right.
He had a MMA style MMA rules match with Sakuraba a couple years ago at Wrestle Kingdom, but I know they did have some death matches in the early 2000s with Onita. When Onita came over,
Yeah.
he had one with Chono and he had one with Muda, but those didn't really catch on. Have you ever seen the Desert Island match that oh man, who was it? It's like Tiger Jeet Singh versus Inoki, the Desert.
No.
Bro, we gotta cover that match. It is so bad. It is so they get on boats and go out to a desert island to have a match that was so explosive it couldn't be. It had to be on an island with no crowd.
Oh my gosh!
That's like one of the first like real and then gimmick matches that they've had. I mean, they've had like. New Japan used to have like these mixed styles matches in the 90s where they'd have a proto MMA type fighter come in and wrestle a wrestler. They did those a lot, but I can't. Hey, listeners, if you're out there, tweet us. I can't think of a single no disqualification like street fight really that I can even think of.
Yeah, I can't think of any either. So this is going to be.
It might be a first.
Yeah,
we'll have to look.
This will make this match even more special. Like I mentioned, it makes it different.
It adds intrigue to the card.
Right, and it makes it different from Okada and Naito.
Well, remember last year when, man, it was really tough because when Naito and Tanahashi had that classic wrestling match, and then the crowd was so freaking hot for that, and then the crowd came down, and then Omega and Okada came out. I literally was like, how can they freaking go on after that? And then they did, and they had a 6-star match.
Right.
But that's not every like matchup of wrestlers can do that. So when you have a match that's going to be hardcore based, blood feud, street fight, and then you have a classic wrestling match that's more athletically based, the big match feel, it is nice because they're not going to necessarily have to compete against something that's so similar.
Right. Definitely contrast in styles, and it's a good to mix it up when those matches will be back to back on the card. So that pretty much will wrap it up for the Road to Tokyo Dome shows.
And that means, aside from what we're about to cover, that is the last major show before Wrestle Kingdom, baby.
All right, and like I mentioned, next week's episode, we will be doing our Wrestle Kingdom 12 preview and predictions. We'll go through each match and give our predictions and break them down and get you pumped up for Wrestle Kingdom 12.
Should we bring on Rich?
Yeah.
We should bring Rich Latta on the show.
Yeah, let's do. We'll reach out to the big league, Mr. LOP,
Mr. Lords of Pain Wrestling,
the heat magnet,
Mr. Latta, freaking Latta's Lariat, Mr. Dead Man Walking because I'm trying to shoot on Phil Baroni.
I told him today he's a heat magnet.
Yeah, man's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, we might bring on Rich Latta. We'll see. We'll see if he's got time for us in his schedule.
Yeah. We'll see if he can pencil us in. So yeah, next we're gonna cover Lionsgate Project 10. This happened on December 21st. This was the show to determine the Young Lions Cup winner. And we actually watched the show together here at the Strong Style Studios.
Oh, my place is Strong Style Studios? Nice. I didn't even know. I've been living here. I'm living in the dojo. The young boys living in the dojo, bro.
Watching the Young Boys dojo. So, the first match.
Well, we just to kind of cover, like, we watched every match from this six participant single block tournament. and they had the first two nights that we covered, and those matches were really good. And then to open up for the Road 2 shows, they had nights.
Tournament matches.
Yeah, tournament matches, nights 3 and 4. And so I think like going into the final night, and what was interesting was during the Young Lions Project 8 and 9 matches, which were the first 2 nights, the matches were like longer. They were somewhere between like 7 to like 12, 13 minutes, and they were like pretty meaningful and good. And then those last 2 nights during the openers for the freaking Road 2
shows,
those matches were like 5 minutes.
Yeah, they were really short. I was really surprised about that. You would think that they would give them a little bit more time on those shows.
Well, they were openers, so it made sense.
Right.
I was very disappointed because we ended up getting Kitamura against Kawato, and I thought that was actually, of all those 2-night matches, I thought that was the best match of those 2 nights.
Potential, yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought it ended up being the best.
But it could have been better.
They only wrestled 5 minutes.
Right. I expected they should have saved that match for the Project Gate show.
Well, it's cool because that match might wind up one day being like a bigger match. We only got like 5 minutes of it, so it's not like they gave it away like too early. So maybe down the road it'll be a bigger deal because those are like the 2 top guys. But leading into this tournament, so you had Kitamura leading the pack. He was 4-0.
Right.
He'd beaten everybody, and he was gonna wrestle Oka in the final. Oka was 3-1. He had lost the only match that he lost was to Kawato, and Kawato came into the final night as 3-1 as well. And the only guy that he lost to was Kitamura, and then Narita, who was one of my personal favorites, and Yagi both had 0 wins leading into the final night, and I think Umino only had like 1 win.
Yeah,
2 wins because he beat Narita and he beat Yagi.
Right.
And so it set up a situation where Narita and Yagi were in the first match, and both guys had 0 wins. And let's talk about that match.
Right, so Narita and Yagi, this was the best match of this show.
It was the best match of the tournament, man.
Yeah, Young Boy and I were here marking out in the dojo. Dude, these guys, you want to talk about strong style? This was strong style. These guys were slapping the crap out of each other.
Bro.
Drop kicking each other so hard.
Yagi came into this. So Yagi was one of the young boys the night before at ringside, and he happened, or no, it was the first night.
Yeah, December 17th Road 2 show.
Yeah,
he got shaved by Minoru Suzuki.
Yeah, he was trying to protect the people in the crowd from Suzuki, and Suzuki just grabbed the poor fool and just started shaving his head. And in this might sound bad, but like, Narita, Yagi, and Umino, they don't necessarily look alike, but they're all like similar build, and they all have black hair. And sometimes it's hard for me to tell them apart because they all wear the exact same trunks and the same boots.
Yeah.
So when Yagi got shaved, a little part of me was happy because I was like, I'll be able to tell them apart now. Like something kind of like defining. But man, he doesn't look good with that bald head, and I think that's why he came into this match so pissed.
Yeah, he was fired up.
He was really fired up, and I like Narita better than Yagi. Yagi's my least favorite guy in the tournament, but maybe not after this match, because as much as I like Narita, Yagi was hitting him with some of the sickest like Wahoo McDaniel slaps I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, both of those guys were just sounding off. I mean, hard strikes to the face.
The drop kicks, bro.
The drop kicks. Oh my gosh. Literally running at each other full speed and drop kicking. Like
it looked like literally it would have hurt. I think Yagi drop kicked Narita so hard, I couldn't imagine how Narita's like knees didn't like buckle or hurt, like, because it was like a football collision is how hard it was.
Pretty much, yeah. Like Narita was running at Yagi, and Yagi was running at Narita, and Yagi jumped up and drop kicked him as Narita was running at him.
And they did that spot a couple times in the match, and then in the middle of the match they started slowing it down. And we're talking about a match here, guys. We don't really, when we review shows, there's very few times you can hear us talking about the details of a match unless we really, really like it. But Yagi and Narita were trading the freaking Boston Crabs, which we saw so many matches end with Boston Crabs in this tournament.
And something like we talked about before, the young Lions are restricted on what moves they can do, and the Boston Crab is one of the moves they can do. That's one of the go-to submission moves that usually ends matches.
I jumped online to see who else reviewed this show and these matches. There was only a couple people. there was almost no love for this match.
What?
Yeah, I couldn't understand it. There was a lot of people that weren't digging this match, and I was like, this was the best match of the entire
tournament.
And they started getting down to like 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it was like 12 minutes, and they started wrestling frantic, going for pinfalls, going for submissions, and I wasn't picking up on the fact that they were nearing the end of the match, and then Jeremy was like,
yeah, well, because obviously like the announcer was speaking in Japanese, but I could hear like the frantic like tone in his voice, like whatever he was saying, like
I was too into the match. I wasn't even paying attention
like,
to it.
I'm guessing he was saying like 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
1 minute left. 30 seconds left.
like 1992 WCW, television title match. Lord Steven Regal's about to retain. Time limit draw.
Right. It's like almost like an Iron Man. Like, the time's counting down. It's almost that time.
And then it got to the final couple seconds, and Yagi just freaking slapped Narita so hard in the face and just starched the dude. And he sells it so good. He crumbles to the ground in a way that looks for real. Not the way not a back body bump. He just falls over and crumbles.
Yeah.
And Yagi goes for the pin, and it looks like he's gonna get it, but the time limit expires, and so these guys end up with 0-0 and 1.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
but they got 1 point.
They got 1 point for the tournament, so they got no wins and 1 draw for the whole tournament. But of the 3 lower guys, Umino, Yagi, and Narita was my favorite dude of those 3 who got booked on the lower end. But this match really put Yagi and Narita over for me. If you guys are listening, it's a 15-minute match. I don't know how many 15-minute matches I'm going to sit here and be like, maybe 4 to 4 1/4.
Yeah,
it was in that range.
Go out of your way, subscribe to New Japan World and look up Lionsgate Project 10. It's the opening match, 15-minute draw, Narita and Yagi.
It's really good.
It's worth the watch.
It's really good.
You will pop.
If you like Shibata and Ishii and strong style wrestling, you got to see this match. Oh, they were doing headbutts. They weren't doing real headbutts, but because of the implications with Shibata, anytime someone does a headbutt in New Japan now, the people
they gasp.
Yeah. Crazy match. And then
in the second match we had Kawato taking on Umino.
Yeah, which is Red Shoe's son. And because this was the finals, I think they worked way harder. All these matches got way more time than any of the other shows. I remember thinking this was very good. Kawato obviously shined because he's the best one of the tournament, really, realistically.
Yeah, he's the top young boy.
He looked good.
I was impressed with Umino's selling of his leg in night 1 and 2 of the Tokyo Dome show, and in this match he came in, I believe it was his right knee that was injured.
I thought it was interesting. Umino, the first couple nights he worked heel, and I thought he was pretty effective in that role, and then he kind of worked baby the rest of the tournament.
With the knee injury.
Yeah, with the knee injury. And I think it was cool to kind of see him revert back and forth, to see a guy like that get exposure both ways, or experience, I should say. But obviously, Kawato hit him with his Trouble in Paradise kick, whatever he calls it. I really know what it's called.
Yeah, let's call it Trouble in Paradise for now.
His spinning super kick or whatever.
Kawato in Paradise.
The Kawato dream. I don't know, but it's an awesome kick. And then anytime Kawato grabs just the one leg and leans back with his signature pin, you know that the guy's out. So that's when it's over. And Kawato got the win here and came out looking strong. So that set up a situation where Kawato at that point was 4-1, and then Kitamura was 4-0, and Oka was 3-1, and Kawato had beat Oka, and Kitamura beat Kawato. So it left us a situation in the finals where if Oka were to win at that point, then it would create a 3-way tie because he lost to Kawato but beat Kitamura, and Kitamura beat Kawato. They would all end with equal points, and it would end in a tie. We would need some sort of tiebreaker between those 3 competitors.
Which that was the option that you were hoping for.
Is what I was predicting. But then on the other end of things, if Kitamura won, not only would Kitamura go undefeated in the tournament, he would also win the tournament because he has more points than everybody at that point. So that it created kind of an epic feel to the final match of the night or of the tournament. And let's talk about Kitamura and Oka, Jeremy.
Yeah, so Kitamura and Oka, that was another great match. Oka, comes in there, brings it to Kitamura right away. A lot of strong strikes, trying to, beat Kitamura to the punch.
Yeah.
He knows Kitamura is stronger than him, and he's going to outpower him. But even though Kitamura is stronger, there were some spots where Oka showed his strength. There was like a big scoop slam that he got Kitamura up
I think
for.
he was hitting him with some cool gut wrench, like suplex too, because he's like got that Greco style.
Yeah, the Greco style amateur wrestling. Also, Kitamura was also an amateur wrestler.
Oh, and the strikes. Kitamura was hitting him with those chops, and Oka had to keep trying to like match his chop, and
they were doing a chop battle.
And Kitamura would sell it, but you could just obviously tell that Oka was not even able to hit Kitamura as hard as
Kitamura did a good job selling it, but they were not as hard. Kitamura would strike back, and Oka would bend over, holding his chest in pain.
Kitamura sells really well for a guy his size. It's really believable, but it doesn't make him look weak.
Right. That's part of his training. A lot of the matches he's been in focuses on him selling.
Yeah. And Oka has, a wrestling background as well as Kitamura. They both were
former amateurs.
So there was a lot of flair in the early parts of the match.
Yeah, a lot of chain wrestling, a lot of grappling.
A lot of sit outs and trying to get the ride and all that sort of stuff. So, but ultimately, what ended up being probably the second best match of the night is a really good match. I would say it was maybe the second best match of the tournament, or one of them anyways.
Yeah. Kitamura hits that
Kitamura hit him with the big spear
and the jackhammer.
Yeah, and if you guys are listening, Kitamura has been finishing guys with the spear and the jackhammer. I don't know if you've ever watched wrestling or if you know any guys out there that use those two moves.
There's some guy named Bill
something
that gets over doing this combo.
Actually, I remember this other guy who was better. His name was Ryback. He used to hit guys with those same two moves. But Kitamura has been finishing dudes with the jackhammer and the spear, which is kind of interesting that those are the moves. People say he's the Japanese Brock Lesnar, but I think he wants to be the Japanese Goldberg.
Goldberg was also, in one of his promos, he said, "Who's next?"
Yeah. The second night, he cut some promo, and I don't know. Kitamura's promos are basically da 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 da. I wasn't strong enough today. I'm trying to get stronger. I'm gonna be a great wrestler. I will evolve. And now he's saying, "Who's next?"
Right. And Kitamura is our Young Lions Cup winner. And
got the big trophy.
And then news broke today that Kitamura is going on an excursion.
Well, he said he wants to.
Well, yeah.
He said he's going to.
He said he's going on an excursion in America next year, 2018. Where do you think the best place for Kitamura to do his excursion would be here?
I don't think that it would be best for him to do an excursion. I think Kitamura is 37 years old, right? He's 37?
I thought he was 30. Wasn't he 34?
I think Kitamura is 37, man.
Wow, he's that old?
I'll look it up.
Okay.
But I think that Kitamura is he doesn't need to go on excursion. He's the least young boy.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry. He's not that old. He's 32. Okay, he's 32. So,
he's still older than majority of the young boys.
Yeah, and the point for guys to go on excursion, it is to get experience, which he desperately needs, and to, maybe get a gimmick and to learn different ways to work and all that. And it would be beneficial, but usually when they send guys away, they're young. They're not over. They're, you know what I mean? Kitamura is super over already. He, in the tag league, I think he proved that he can fit into I think that if you put him in an enforcer type role, like Batista in Evolution in the early days, he doesn't have to go away. I don't think it's maybe in the long run, maybe I'm wrong here and it would be beneficial, but he doesn't need a gimmick. Kitamura is the gimmick.
Right.
Look at him.
They could probably have benefited maybe putting him in one of the factions and having him be the enforcer of a faction and then kind of break out that way.
Yeah.
But since he is going to do an excursion,
that's what he says.
Well, that's what he says. So we don't. Obviously, it probably will happen if he's saying it.
The most obvious place is
Ring of Honor, because they have the partnership with New Japan. A lot of guys have done their excursion in New Japan. Evil, formerly known as Watanabe, did his excursion in Ring of Honor. And so the connection's already there. He'll have people to help him with travel and transportation and translation. He'll get exposure on TV. He'll probably get some pay-per-view matches. Learn that the Ring of Honor style, which is kind of a little bit similar, but not exactly the same. But he'll learn that style.
You know what's weird? I just thought of this, and maybe the listeners who are listening will think that I'm crazy or that this is a stupid idea, but it's just something that popped in my head. Why not send him to Impact? I know that, like, now hear me out here. Okay, I know that when they sent Okada there in the past, that it was a terrible thing, but let's be clear here. This is not the same company. They work weekly television in a way that, yes, Ring of Honor has television, but it is not really the same.
Right.
And in Impact, these guys don't work the extensive dates that maybe Ring of Honor does. I mean, Ring of Honor is still indie. It's a super indie, but it's an indie. But they're also like sending these, they're sending their workers to Mexico and to Europe and to the indies extensively. And, I feel like you send them to Ring of Honor. At this point, a guy like Kitamura is so high profile that whatever he ends up doing, he's not Jay White and he's not Takahashi. Whatever he ends up doing in Ring of Honor is going to stick with him forever. I think you send him to a place like Impact, he still gets to work with great workers. Maybe he gets more opportunities in some respects that he wouldn't necessarily in Ring of Honor. And then it's more low profile because at this point, Impact is a more low profile company. Don Callis is there.
Right, that Don Callis can work that New Japan relationship.
I don't know. Like, I haven't heard anyone talk about this. I'm not sitting here saying I know that he's going to Impact or don't.
Right.
And we've never talked about this. But
right. I mean, it's a good option.
Why not send him there,
right.
Instead of sending him to Ring of Honor, which is a more high profile.
Impact, they're trying to mend that relationship with New Japan so they can work together again. And you have Don Callis, aka Cyrus, there
to kind of like protect him,
right?
And maybe book him properly.
Right. He's a vice president with Scott D'Amore, so he's going to be in charge of the booking. And I'm sure that Cyrus would protect Kitamura and help him get over.
I mean, you have stories of guys, like Muda, who did go away and got way over in America. And then you've got stories of guys like Tanahashi who didn't have to leave and he was able to stay and get over. In my mind, I don't think Kitamura has to leave. I really, really, really don't see the need for it because Kitamura, what can he learn? And maybe I'm saying this wrong. What can he learn working with the guys in America that he can't learn working from the best workers? I mean, is it what's more beneficial, working with Tanahashi, Okadas, and Naitos versus coming over to America working with like Johnny Mundos and
Jay Lethal.
Yeah, like Jay Lethal. That's great, but for who he is and what he probably will end up meaning to the company, I feel like it's almost better.
It's a
waste of time. Keep him there and make him a national hero, which is what he's probably going to be set up to eventually be anyways. But if they're going to send him away, you can send him to Ring of Honor. They've done it with plenty of guys, but I think he is such a high profile type of dude. I would send him somewhere maybe a little bit smaller where it's a little more low key and it's not so entangled with the like canon. I mean, not that Ring of Honor is canon, but a lot of stuff that happens in Ring of Honor is sort of semi-canon to New Japan.
I mean, another place doesn't have as much exposure, maybe you send him to an Evolve.
You could put him on the indie scene in America, but then who's gonna take care of him?
Yeah.
Who's going to travel with him, teach him English, and, watch out for the dude?
Well, I'm sure they wouldn't just set him up here by himself. Somebody would go with him.
Send him with, Funaki?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm excited about this. Kitamura is... it's exciting that they're deciding to get behind him and push him. I mean, logically, I think most people expected him to win this tournament, and it was a really cool tournament. And I mean, they were trying to. We talked about it before. It was like the memorial tournament for their head trainer over there in the New Japan Dojo. I think Kitamura is a guy that's going to become a big star, so I think that it makes the most logical sense to give him the success. So when they point back to this tournament, it's like a landmark moment for his career. I don't know what happens going forward, but I don't see Kitamura being... If he goes on excursion, I don't see it being a long excursion at all. We're talking maybe half a year less than that.
6 months,
6 months. And then he's back, and he's going to come back with this is a dude that I could easily see like with a title, like an IC title shot within a year or two, honestly.
Yeah, easily.
I think we'll see him in the G1.
Oh,
maybe not this year, but maybe the next year.
Yeah, and I think that he'll do awesome in that tournament.
Can you imagine him and Michael Elgin?
Oh my, dude! Can you imagine him and Ishii?
Yeah, I can actually. Oh, yeah. Before we move on, we were kind of just breezing over some of those matches. I did want to say, if you guys get a chance, you should really check out the striking exchange between Hanare and Ishii the other night during that tag match.
Oh, I think that was the second. Was it the second?
It was the second night
of Road to Tokyo Dome show. Oh my gosh!
It was Hanare and Makabe against Ishii and Yano.
Yeah.
That, and bro, Ishii was freaking killing.
I tweeted out, Hanare has a death wish. He was hitting Ishii so hard, and Ishii would fire up and hit him back harder.
I don't even really like Hanare that much, but seeing that strike exchange was where I was like, man, maybe there is something to this guy, because they were freaking going to war, bro. I mean, that reminded me of like Hanma and Ishii from a couple years ago, the strikes that they were doing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, we're going to get ready to wind the show down for a few little news items. First thing, the full Wrestle Kingdom 12 card is set. All the matches are set for that show.
We're not going to go like in depth, but we should at least just announce what the full card is, I suppose, real quick.
Right. Do you have that pulled up?
Yeah, let me pull that up. Wrestle Kingdom 12. Yeah. So they announced it just the other night. We've got it's 11 matches, and the show is going to open just like it does almost every year. It's going to be the New Japan Rumble, the Rambo. That's going to be on the undercard. We've got Roppongi 3K against the Young Bucks for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. The new match that they just announced, and there's a lot of speculation about so many guys being left off this card. Well, we now know that they're going to be doing a gauntlet match for the Never Openweight 6-man Tag Team Championship. They're doing the champions, which is the Bullet Club, Bad Luck Fale, Tamatanga, Tangaloa. They'll be defending against Chaos, which is Trent Beretta, Ishii, and Yano, against Michael Elgin and War Machine, which is a really strange combination in some ways. Suzuki Gun, which will be Taichi, Iizuka, and Zack Sabre Jr., and then Taguchi Japan, which is Juice Robinson, Ryosuke Taguchi, and Togi Makabe. We have a special singles match.
Yep, Cody versus Kota Ibushi. Then we also have the IWGP Tag Title match, Killer Elite Squad. That's Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Lance Archer will be defending the titles against the World Tag League winners, Evil and Sonata. We have the Never Openweight Hair vs. Hair match, Minoru Suzuki versus Hiroki Goto.
They're calling it the No Seconds Death Match. And then we've got the 4-way match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, which is Marty Scurll defending against Hiromu Takahashi, Kushida, and Will Ospreay. The IWGP Intercontinental Championship match, which is the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, against, is it Sling Blade?
Yeah, Switchblade.
Switchblade, Jay White.
And then there's the no DQ IWGP US title match of Kenny Omega versus Alpha Chris Jericho. And then the main event for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, Okada versus Naito.
Awesome card. We'll get more into that, but that's what we've got
next
announced.
Week, full preview and predictions for all those matches. Next thing, we mentioned War Machine in that Never 6-man gauntlet match. The word on the street is War Machine is headed to WWE. Their final match for New Japan will be the Trios Gauntlet, and it's possible that they will compete the next night on New Year's Dash. But they've told New Japan that they were leaving. They finished up with Ring of Honor. So yeah, it seems like all signs are pointing for War Machine headed to WWE. Interesting fact, Ray Rowe, his girlfriend is Sarah Logan, who's now on the main roster as part of Absolution. So that would kind of help them out being in the same company.
Well, they, we had some speculation about would War Machine. I thought War Machine was absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt going to be involved in the IWGP Tag Team title match at Wrestle Kingdom.
Right, we were expecting either a 3-way or 4-way in that match.
I thought they were a strong candidate to possibly even win the tag tournaments. So they were booked strong, but when they lost, we were like, well, what do they do for the for Wrestle Kingdom? And then when I heard it was announced that they were possibly teaming with Elgin, I was like, well, they could maybe win the 6-man tag titles. I mean, that's another like little feather in their cap if they do win that. But then the reports started coming out that after Final Battle, which that was strange that they beat the Addiction clean at Final Battle, but then at the TV tapings the next night they lost and then did like a final bow, and it was like their final date with Ring of Honor, and no one knew, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, they're done with Ring of Honor? And now the last 2 shows that they've got with New Japan are the Tokyo Dome, then they're gonna work New Year's Dash, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And so I guess that it's not officially announced, but like they're coming to NXT or WWE, along with New Japan alumni Ricochet, who is also out of the company. He is expected to also in the next. This is all going to happen in January. Ricochet is going to be announced to be going over to NXT as well.
We could be seeing them in the crowd, or maybe they'll jump somebody. I think both of them will do very well in NXT. Yeah, we'll see what happens when they get the main roster. We were struggling
for WrestleMania weekend. Do we go to NXT or do we go to Supercard of Honor? And I mean, we ended up getting Supercard of Honor tickets, A, because they were cheaper, B, because we think it might be a better show, but C, because those NXT tickets were really hard to get. Yeah. But now I'm like kind of bummed because I really thought War Machine was going to be there, and I'm going to be optimistic. I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer here. I'm going to be an optimistic wrestling fan. Dave Fenichel.
We still get the ace and the cleaner.
Yeah, I'm worried about what happens when they go over to, to the E, basically. Right. But, hey, we'll see how that all shakes out, but that they're done.
Right. And then their tag partner in the 6-man gauntlet, Big Mike, his contract is up January 31st for New Japan. There's been no word of if that contract's going to get renewed. We talked about the Michael Elgin situation on this podcast, but usually that kind of stuff doesn't really affect people's careers in New Japan.
Well, it does if they're from Japan.
But usually American affairs are not as big of a deal as something in Japan.
Well, I don't even know if it's like reported necessarily. Like if it was something that was widely reported there, it would be seen as being very, very shameful, and it would basically be the end of Michael Elgin in Japan. We've seen it in the past with different guys. I think it might have been Taichi, but I'm trying to remember who it was. That got like a huge deep push when it found out that they were like cheating. We thought that it was going to affect Shibata last year, and it apparently didn't, but that he was one of the rare cases. Most of the time, though, scandals like this are seen as very serious offenses in Japan, but when it's an American guy, and it's not even big news necessarily, except outside of the local internet community. It's not like it's being reported on the news or anything. It's a pretty hush-hush sort of subject. I don't know if it's going to affect his contract negotiations, but do you think that they re-sign him?
It's hard. I would think that they would. He's one of their big Gaijin stars, and there's no solid evidence on any of the stuff. Like, he has not been, arrested or convicted of anything yet. So I don't even think it's that. I think it's just if it were to be a big story there, it's the perception of what it means. It's a shameful
thing, because they're very big on you. When you are out of this, you represent the company.
Right. I mean, I think
you can't bring shame on the company. To bring shame on the company in Japan is a huge deal, right. But I think because it's over here in the U.S., I don't know if it's being reported.
I think anything. They can sign him. If something happens, you release him.
I don't know if that. I mean, I assume he's coming back. But at the same time, I mean, it's not like he had the most stellar booking over the past year, or that he was a major emphasis in the company. To a degree he was, but it's almost like he's the secondary gaijin to Kenny's, being the top gaijin guy. I think Mike Elgin's tailor-made. I've said it before, he's tailor-made for Japan, but I expect for him to come back. But I mean, at this point, anything can happen. I mean, who knows? Who knows? We could see him go to WWE at this point.
That's true.
We don't know.
He could be joining War Machine and Ricochet,
Yeah. There's a couple just more like minor things. They got, speaking of Wrestle Kingdom earlier, ProWrestlingTees.com just came out with 2 very limited edition Wrestle Kingdom exclusive shirts, promoting the 2 main card matches of Naito and Okada and Omega and Jericho. I saw those t-shirts. They're freaking awesome, and they're limited. They're only going to run the print one time. So, if you're a New Japan fan, it's your only opportunity. That's the only place you can get them is on ProWrestlingTees.com. Also, we talked about the other week that Minoru Suzuki was announced for the high stakes show in Rev Pro on January the 20th, I believe. Well, they just announced the card and the match announcement. It's going to be Suzuki Gun, so the tag team of Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr., who's the Rev Pro heavyweight champion, taking on Mustache Mountain, Trent Seven, and Tyler Bate for the British Tag Team Championships. So we're getting in Rev Pro, we're getting a New Japan versus WWE match on pay-per-view, essentially, which is I mean, I don't know. I really want to see Minoru Suzuki and Tyler Bate wrestle for some weird reason. There's another interesting story that, I know a lot of our fans, are wrestling diehards only. I don't know how many of you guys follow MMA. This isn't an MMA show, but 2 outstanding New Japan alumni, Kazushi Sakuraba, who's he's one of the greatest. He's the greatest Japanese MMA fighter of all time, and he headlined the Tokyo Dome a few years back with Shinsuke Nakamura. What am I saying?
Nakamura.
It's been a long day, guys. Shinsuke Nakamura. He has partnered recently with former IWGP title challenger Josh Barnett, who also calls the action on Access Television, to start his own grappling, his own real wrestling promotion. And they're calling it Quintet. So it's like essentially a grappling promotion where there's no strikes involved. It's just straight up like wrestling, but it's a 5-on-5. Every match is 5-on-5. So 2 guys start. Whichever guy loses, the next guy from his tournament jumps in. It's essentially a 5-on-5 gauntlet match.
A gauntlet Survivor Series match.
Yeah, it's like a gauntlet Survivor Series match. They actually used to do this exact style match in New Japan in the 80s, where they'd have the first 2 guys start and then go back and forth. And then the team that wins is the team that still has survivors on it at the end of all the 5 guys. Yeah, or however many rounds it actually lasts. Really, really weird. In wrestling this kind of makes sense, but in real life to think that there's gonna be dudes doing like catch as catch can, like wrestling and jiu-jitsu and all that, and doing a gauntlet match. It's called Quintet. There's videos of it on YouTube. I don't know if it's officially started, but Sakuraba and Josh Barnett are involved, so it's worth checking out. And who knows, maybe we'll see those guys back in the New Japan ring at some point.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. All right, well, that's going to wrap up another episode of Keeping It Strong Style.
We didn't talk about Barnett and Jim Ross.
Oh, my bad. I thought we had mentioned them earlier when we talked about Access, but that's right. Jim Ross and Josh Barnett, they signed on a new 1-year deal to keep commentating for Access in 2018.
Yeah, so, a lot of people gave them crap for the G1 special, the G1 in the USA live special, which rightfully so.
Yeah.
Is one of the worst called wrestling, like major wrestling shows in North America in a long time. But that being said, if you guys catch Access on Friday nights, those can tape shows, I mean, these guys are getting better and better every single week and every single like recording session. And I'm happy that they brought them both back. I mean, at this point, I mean, I can't really who are they going to have call this?
Right. I mean,
I guess they could do Don Callis and Kevin Kelly, but I don't know. I mean, they're not signed by Access; they're signed by New Japan. So it's a totally different thing altogether.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's exciting to see those two guys. Plus, I like to see the matches that they call versus the matches that Kevin Kelly and Don Callis
it's a good comparison.
call.
Also, it's very interesting because JR is still under a WWE contract as well.
Yeah, so he's working, for WWE. He's also doing, like, boxing and MMA calling. So, consistency is good. I think it's good for that brand to have those guys there. I mean, it's too bad they can't get Morrow anymore, but hey, they've got the second best that they can get at this point, which is great. There was a couple other things. One thing I don't know if you caught Kenny Omega's Rolling Stone interview that just came out.
No.
It's really, really interesting. He talked a lot about different subjects, but one of the interesting things was they brought up the fact that he bladed during the promo with Jericho. And he was basically saying that, essentially that they don't do that in not only wrestling in general, but especially in New Japan. Like that never happens. Like nobody bleeds. Anytime someone bleeds, it's hard way and it's not even a planned sort of thing. Like it's only like on accident. So in this instance where this is a company that does have sponsorships that are like children's sponsorships, things like that, they have to keep it somewhat PG to a degree, even though like there's a lot of cussing.
Yeah.
They're a Japanese company, so Americans cussing and saying like it doesn't matter to them.
Right.
But a guy like cutting his head open and bleeding on screen, that's really taboo over there. And so he said that, at this point he's essentially a big enough star and the company has enough faith in him because of the marketability and the business that him and Jericho are doing that they trust him enough to go out there and execute a really controversial angle like that. It's really interesting, and it's the rest of the interview that he did it's with Rolling Stone. I mean, the fact that like wrestlers are being covered by New Japan wrestlers have been covered by Rolling Stone magazine. That's kind of telling you the magnitude of this match that's coming up. In fact, bro, just the other day, I wanted to tell you I was at work and I've been talking to one of the guys about the podcast. And my buddy comes up to me and he's like, hey. I was like, what's up, man? He's like, dude, I was listening to the NFL the other day on Sirius XM, and he said that there's a commercial for Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho in the Tokyo Dome. He's like, that's the match you were telling me about. And I was like, that was on Sirius XM radio? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, wow, like this match is really getting a lot of press.
They're making this thing a huge deal.
We didn't talk about Cody losing the title.
I briefly mentioned it earlier when during Rich's question we talked about Cody, but yeah, he lost the Ring of Honor World title to Dalton Castle at Final Battle.
So I mean, that's kind of
he was supposed to defend it against Kota Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom. That match is still happening, but there is no title on the line.
Special singles match,
right? The special attraction match,
which I guess kind of at this point, if you're making predictions, it's going to change what you might potentially think the outcome of that match could be, but Cody's no longer the real world's champion anymore, guys. And then we covered everything. We covered Naito winning the Weekly Pro Awards and all that. What was their match of the year?
Their match of the year was Okada Omega from Wrestle Kingdom 11.
Wow. Two publications in a row.
Right. And speaking of voting, guys, the voting for our Keeping It Strong Style year-end awards is still open. That poll will close 11:59 p.m. December 31st. So go out and vote. January 16th, we'll be announcing the winners here on Keeping It Strong Style. So get your votes in. Make sure you follow the show at KI Strong Style. Follow at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. Subscribe to the Social Suplex Podcast Network on Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play, or Apple Podcasts. please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. Leaving those reviews and ratings helps our show be seen by more fans, guys. We want this show to grow. We've already had so much success with this show and the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We want all our shows to grow. We want the network to grow. So go out and rate and review. And until next time, good night and goodbye. Bang!